Hello everyone. Today I'm going to revisit a painting that we've done not too long ago as of the recording of this video, and it's going to be inspired by the studying that I've done with the Gustav Klimt in the class that I made, because this was a Gustav Klimt inspired painting. It's our flower painting, but I feel like in my giant art journal I want to do a flower spread, and I just want to show you where that inspiration kind of came from. So in Klimt's paintings there are lots of areas where he does clusters of flowers, and so I was very inspired by that. And then in that original painting I also said there were lots of areas where he did kind of mark making and lines of different shades of colors in his landscapes and his flowers, and I was very inspired by all the texture that you can see in his pieces, and that's kind of where, you know, I got started when I directed the flower piece that I created. That was my inspiration for that. And then this is that piece. And I went ahead and stuck it in a frame, and I did evaluate it, you know, kind of after I turned off the camera and stood back from it. And sometimes you have to do that. You have to stand back from a piece and say, okay, is there anything that's jumping out that's too obvious or too drawing the eye? And there was a big white clump of paint up here in this flower setup that I did push back so that you didn't run right over here to the big white splot, which you'll see in the video of this piece. You'll notice that, and so just thought I would tell you that before I stuck it in this frame. I did knock that back, and sometimes you just have to come back and look at a piece and think, oh, this is drawing the eye in a way I didn't intend. So I'm going to actually do some type of clustered flower bouquet inspired by our inspiration, and this was the color palette that I had used in that painting because I didn't intend to paint flowers. I pulled a color palette and I was going to do an abstract, and as we were painting the abstract I'm like, whoa, now I feel like this is a clump of flowers, and that's how that piece progressed. But I loved the colors in that piece, and I feel like on this double spread of canvas and watercolor paper, I feel like I want to do this color palette and do a flower kind of spread and just be inspired by the piece that I already did. And I may not end up in the same place, and that's not my goal, to end up in the same place. My goal is to just paint where the inspiration kind of leads me. And so I have pulled out my So Flat paints because that's what we used originally, and I'm just going to give those a good shake up and open those up. And I've got cadmium red dark, and I like the So Flats. They're flat when they dry. They're a really beautiful quality of paint. That's my white that's been contaminated with the different colors, but I don't even care. I have another white if I need a white without any contamination. But I don't mind if they get contaminated a little bit. And these are kind of the consistency, they feel like the consistency of a fluid paint. If you've got any type of fluid acrylic paints, that's what the consistency of these feel like. And I'm just making sure we've got them all shook up, and for me, that's been several weeks since I painted that painting, and I'm like, how did I even paint that? So I have pulled out, this one is titanium white, cadmium red dark, cadmium orange, naphthol pink, cobalt teal, dark green, and then I pulled a yellow out. And while this is not exact to the colors in our inspiration palette, it's very close, and I feel like it's going to get us there. So here's all our colors, one where you can see them here in the frame, and hopefully I don't knock them over. I also pulled out some Neocolor 2 crayons just in that same kind of color palette. And I also have over here these Faber-Castell Polychroma pencils. I've decided I really love these, and they're kind of an oil-based pencil because they are really smooth and glide on top of color really easily. So I've decided these are some of my favorite pencils to use, and more than anything, I want to put pastels and stuff on top of these, soft pastels and oil pastels. But I'm working in an art journal, and I don't want to have to protect all the pages and do all that stuff. So that's why I've kind of not used pastels in my journal. So this is my Princeton number 8 flat shader. It's what I was painting with in the other piece. I don't know that I'll stick completely to it, but you never know. And I'm just going to get us started with some mark making. And when we're all done, if we end up with something that doesn't look like a flower or a garden or something, well, just giggle with me, because even if I start off with some particular thing in mind, I tend to sometimes end up somewhere different. It's kind of how every time I'm like, well, I didn't expect to go here. Like when I painted that original one, that's how we end up there. We just end up there. And part of the joy of art for me now is, where are we going to end up? And it's like a surprise. And I love that. So I did go ahead and prime this piece of canvas with clear gesso. So it's not raw. I just painted the clear gesso last night because I kind of knew that I wanted to do this today. So I've painted some clear gesso on here and let it dry overnight. And then one interesting observation I've had with these raw canvas pieces is they shrink. It's no longer the size of our paper when these dry. If we come back here to one of these other canvas pieces, it shrunk. So it's like an inner flap, so I don't mind the shrinking. I just thought that was interesting, because when we start those pieces, they're the same size as all the other pages. They're not shrunk at all. So how interesting is that? So just keep in mind, even if you don't have this book, if you're painting with raw canvas, it's going to shrink on you, I bet. Okay, so this is my Princeton Select number 8 flat shader, which really feels kind of small for doing the background. I may grab another one. That was a smaller piece that we had painted, and I kind of want to do maybe a little bit larger areas, possibly. Let's see. Here's the 1/2 inch Rosemary and Company comber, C-O-M-B-E-R, comber. And it's a little tiny bit bigger. Maybe I'll start with the little tiny bit bigger. But basically what I did was just get started. There's no perfect, no rhyme or reason. We just dive in, and hopefully when we're done, we'll end up somewhere that we like. So we're just gonna do it. And I'm kind of excited. I do want to end up with some kind of flower somewhere, but we'll see. Napfall. I'm just dipping them in. I'm not even worrying about it. It'll be interesting to see where do we end up? How do we finish this one off? I don't know. I'm also kind of feeling, because this is very brushy, that maybe we'll do our little what? Yes. Okay, so that's a win. So we're not gonna be exacty, but maybe we'll get close. I don't know, but that was super fun. So definitely gonna get some of the brush strokes out of here with our yummy bowl scraper. If you don't have a bowl scraper, I think everybody kind of needs a bowl scraper. All right, that just turned pukey down there, didn't it? All right, let's just bowl scrape all that out. Because remember, when we're doing a Klimt inspired piece, we are thinking layers and texture and what all can I get into this. We're not thinking this is the final layer. So just want to throw that out there. And I'm kind of thinking, this greenish at the bottom could be grass or land. And I'm also kind of thinking, we put that other one in a vase, so we may be putting this in a vase. Or do we just want to do like a flower spray that goes across maybe? All these yummy decisions. Where do we want to go? I feel like I want to switch over from this brush to my filbert. This is a Princeton Umbria filbert 5/8 inch, I think. But I feel like on this canvas I need a little bit stiffer brush, just really pushing that paint into the canvas maybe, and it's a little bit bigger size. And so these are just some of the adjustments and things that you make as you're going, as you're like, this brush works a little different on the different surfaces, and I feel like I'm not getting fast enough done in the amount of brush strokes I'm making, so I just want more. Give me more. I feel like what inspired me and led me to the flowers before was there was an imaginary vase that kind of appeared out of the paintings kind of somewhere down here. So what if we put in an imaginary kind of vase, or like something that was vase shapey. Let me just grab another clean brush, and maybe we'll just create ourselves some type of little vase here. Because we kind of can do something like right in here maybe. Let's just kind of give us a little idea. And then we could kind of come out the rest of this way with the circles, because now I kind of know the direction that I want us to go. So now I'm kind of thinking, what is the composition that I want for this painting? And now I'm kind of wanting to kind of draw it out a little bit so that I know where I'm going. And just give us some fun, crazy, meandering. I feel good about that. So I'm kind of thinking, I want the flowers to definitely be in the orange and the red and the white like we did before. Before I kind of did the vase in like green and blue. I did in like blue. So now I'm kind of thinking maybe we'll do the blue, maybe some white. I'm not looking to exactly copy what we did, but I do still want it to be something fun and interesting when we're finished. And then maybe get us some little texture and stuff going in here. Look at that. Okay, I'm liking that. I like that. Let's go with that. And I'm also at this point kind of thinking, can we put any other texture in here? I might have let it dry a little bit now. Okay, so we're a little dry, but we could have done some mark making in there, which I could still do. I could still kind of say, do we need any extra lines or mark making or drag marks? Actually, I think I'm putting so many layers on here that I think I'm good to keep going like we're going. Now, I'm going to go back to this number 8 flat shader, and I think I'm going to start giving myself some flowers. And you know, Klimt's flowers were basically abstract kind of circle-y pieces. So that's where I'm going with this, and I like the orange and the pink and the white, and then drawing on top of that with the Neo Color 2 crayons and the pencils. That's how we got there before, I think, and if it's not, that's how we're getting there today. And I like them being in the red pink family. So I'm using that naphthol pink and that cadmium orange and that white to kind of lead that. And then when I was all done, I think we knocked back the background when we were all done. That was grabbing some of that little cadmium red deep in there. So not keeping it to any one color, just going where we're inspired to go. Somebody's like, oh, I'm so glad you ventured into flowers. And I'm like, well, I was a flower photographer for a very long time. So flowers are kind of a natural to me. And even though I have not brought out my flower tendencies in my painting side for you guys on YouTube, flowers are kind of a natural go-to for me. Why do I like flowers? Because they stand still and they look pretty. Because let me tell you, if you're a portrait photographer, you understand. You don't have to argue and fight with a flower. That's why I like flowers and still life. That's kind of the direction that I ended up really loving with my photography after trying it all out. That's how you get to what you love. You try it all out and then you're like, okay, here's what I like. And I might, gravitate eventually towards a whole flower series. I don't know. Like maybe I'll do my own little side project of abstract flowers. Look how pretty these are. Let's go here on the canvas and get that started. What I like about doing flowers like this, now that I've done some and I got super inspired by Klimt's little just round flowery things, is anybody can do a flower like this. I mean, this is, I'm not sure it gets any easier than just circles of color. And I do multiple colors in there because it lends to the depth and the creativity of the piece instead of it all being the same. And I'm not trying to create individual petals, and I'm just not overcomplicating doing a little flower shape. I'm just kind of leaning into the abstract color texture feel. And then, if it's not perfect, I don't even care, because this is our art journal. This is our place to play, and I just want a big abstract journal when I'm done to flip through and be like, look at my art journal that I just completed. And then as you flip through with all the different layouts, you just get excited to see what you thought of each day as you opened up a layout or a spread to paint. Look at these. And then who cares if you went a little crazy in one direction or the other? Point is to enjoy painting. Sit down, show up for your practice, and this is what has been super fun for me, showing up and just rediscovering my joy for different subjects. Okay, do we like that composition? It is very kind of dark, like we've got all of the colors kind of blending too much into each other, but that's okay, because I kind of remember when I did that smaller piece that I knocked the color back from the flowers as we were evaluating, like did the background and the foreground kind of blend, or did they compete with each other, or were they too much the same? We kind of go back and evaluate that. All right, do I kind of like the overall feel though? We kind of went roar. Let's put one here. And then we just kind of let it do its own thing. When it came out over here, it just went crazy. Okay, I'm kind of feeling good about that. And now I think that we're going to go ahead and put in some leaves, because if this were, say, roses, there would be some leaves and stuff. And I kind of did that, I think, with this green, so let's just do it. And I'm not looking for anything special, I'm just kind of throwing a leafy shape in there because we're gonna mark on top of that. What do we think about that? Do we got two samey? I need to put one up here maybe. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling that. Throw one over here. Maybe one down there. All right, I'm feeling pretty good about that. What do you think? All right, and now I think I'm gonna take some white. Was it the white that I used originally? I think I'm gonna take the white and maybe start pushing some of this back a little bit. Not quite what I was thinking. Let me get this one. Alright, now after painting this a second time, because I'm kind of in my mind remembering the steps I took the first time, if I were to paint this a third time, I kind of feel like in my mind we should start off with the light background if I know that in the end I'm actually going to want to lighten it up like I've done here. Maybe we start with the light background. So sometimes you got to paint something a couple times before you're like, aha, now I know where I want to go. I gotta let this dry so that we can start drawing on top of it. So I'm gonna be right back. All right, we're not 100% dry, but I do think we're dry enough to start mark making and drawing different colored marks on top of our reds and stuff. So let's just start playing. Can definitely tell some of these aren't completely dry. Alright, I might let the flowers dry a little more. I don't know, I'm kind of liking the parts I'm messing up too though. Gives it more texture and starts separating out so it's not so perfect. I like the way this moved the flowers around, but I kind of almost think I need to let it dry a little bit more to get some more of this scribble line of these actually showing up. And I also need a green. I just think this adds texture and dimension. It makes the color not so flat. That's the reason why I picked that. No other reason, no specific thing I'm doing there. And this is just two different greens so that one of them maybe gives the impression of maybe some highlights. Then I'm going to work on the background some because that'll let the flowers dry some more and I can come back and draw on top of the flowers and get some better marks that are showing up. And I'm going to do the background in some of these colors that were in that our inspiration piece, and the background on that original piece that I did was long dashes of color layered on top of each other. So I'm just gonna do the whole background with this dashes of blue and then come back maybe with some green. Like this is kind of what I'll be doing, just making the background very similar to what I did in our inspiration piece. And there's a second color of green. I'm just giving a little test out here. And then there's a little bit of orange that I might do as just a little kind of pop of extra color. So that is where I'm going. I'm going to speed this up a little bit so you don't have to watch it agonizingly slowly. And I'm just going to get a little more pencil here to do this. Pencil's way easier to use on the paper than it is the canvas. I kind of want to come back now with maybe some of these Stabilos, and now that I've let that paint dry a little more, I want to come a little further out with the flower without getting back into my paint, because you know, I can kind of see where I've stopped the flower and the background started, so I want to now let the flowers overlap the background, I think. So I'm gonna go back in. I feel like the woodies and the Neo Color 2 pastels are very similar. So whatever you have, whatever kind of pencil, mark making, pastel, whatever you think you've got that looks interesting, just get them all out and play. It's definitely different on the canvas though than it was on the paper. I like the paper better. So very super interesting experimenting with different surfaces, especially on one layout like something like this, because now I can see the difference of what it takes to work on each type of paper, which makes that super interesting to me. I'm getting some real thick paint pieces where I've scrubbed some paint off, so I'm gonna go back and get those off. Kind of thinking I want to go back now to maybe the Neo Color pastels. And then if you feel like, oh, I've overdone it, you can go back on top of this with paint if you feel like you got to pull some of those paints back in, which I'm kind of feeling. Because we kind of lost a little bit of our definition with the paint. So I'm kind of feeling like I need a little on top. So let's pull back out the colors that are reds. Not trying to cover up what I've done. I'm simply going to redefine now some of this top layer. And then if we need to, we could go back again with the next layer of, you know, pencil, pastel, whatever. It's all about layering on the flowers for me. All right, that's dried some. I'm going to come back and make some more marks on top. Try not to move the paint as much as I did the first time. And now that I've kind of done this and I'm kind of evaluating, do I like what I ended up with? I feel like on the first piece, because it was kind of novel and I was kind of going where my inspiration led me, and on the second piece I was trying to just kind of duplicate that. I find it hard to do things the second time compared to how I did them the first time. I feel like I was a little looser in the first piece, and I think that first piece is gonna forever be my favorite. But I do think in my art journal, this is a fun piece to have, so I like it. Do I love it? Maybe not, but it is fun. And I'm glad that because I was already kind of thinking of having a piece like this in here, that I didn't shy away from it. Kind of like these bigger woodies in here. It's given me a little bit bigger point to loosen up, scribble a bit better. I'm glad I framed my original piece though. You should go back and watch that video. I like working on the watercolor paper with this technique better than the canvas. So good little lesson to learn there. So if I were to, you know, think in my mind, ooh, I want a whole series of these, and let me just really concentrate on making big abstract flower whatevers, I think I would work on a large piece of paper, and then if I needed it mounted, I'd mount that to a wood panel, or maybe I would mount that to I could frame it and, you know, put it under glass. But I don't think I'd paint it on canvas. I like the paper, smoothness of the paper, and the way that it dealt with all of my supplies. So that's kind of interesting to test out different surfaces in play, because then you discover things like that. Okay, I'm going to keep scribbling on my flowers here for a minute. Okay, I think I'm there. For today, I think for this layout, I think I'm there. I don't know that I'd add anything else to it. I'm going to pull out my papers here. See how that canvas shrunk, and you can see the edge of that? And I just protected the edge of this other piece with, this is just deli paper, that dry wax paper. And I might come back tomorrow and then be like in love with this. I like it. I don't know that I love it. But that was kind of from my inspiration piece. And you can see, I think I was a little more spontaneous, and maybe couldn't even duplicate that exactly, but I was a little more spontaneous there, and I think that's what I love about that. I went different directions than I even intended. I might come back in here and just redefine some of these leaves, but I do love it, and it was fun to do it again. And if I were going to do a whole series of these, because I can see like a whole abstract flower series, I may revisit this theme more as, you know, as I continue on. Because I'm a flower person. I like getting flowers, I like buying flowers, I like people giving me flowers. I order them from Farm Girl Flowers a lot of times because their bouquets are beautiful, and they're very reminiscent of that silhouette of that other piece that I created. They have that fun little spray that does cool stuff. But yeah, I think the next time I wouldn't be so focused on trying to create something exactly like I already created, and see if I could grab that spontaneity again. But as far as like a layout in a book full of, you know, yummy abstracts, I think as we're flipping along and we get to that page, I might be like, oh, I love that. Also almost thinking on this one that I accidentally painted with the camera off, that I could come in here with some type of flower spray, maybe in shades of white and indigo, and I don't know, shades of blue and white or something with maybe a pop. I don't know, I'm still kind of on the fence on this one since I accidentally painted over it without filming it. But you can see how as we flip and we see the different layouts, how exciting it is. I mean, this actually gives me so much joy to flip through and see all the things that we've already created in this book. So I think that this as a spread in the middle of that, as we go to whatever the next spread will be super fun. And I'm pretty happy with today. Hope you enjoyed painting with me, and I will see you next time.